stick around because today I'm answering your most asked cocktail questions. In the last several months, as I've been posting more and more videos, you all have become increasingly engaged in the channel, and you have been sending me these questions, whether it's via text message or email or commenting on my YouTube channel about things that you might just not have understood, and you just had a follow-up question. Well, today we are answering your questions. So I thought we're gonna do things a little bit differently today. I wrote out the most popular questions here, so we'll go through them one by one. And the reason I isolated these is because I know if several people had this question, you probably do too, and maybe you just didn't ask it. But I know these questions exist because these are the types of questions I answer every day at my work. So let's go through them one by one. First question, in the blender pisco sour episode, you mentioned using caster sugar. Can I use simple syrup instead? And if so, how much? Great question. In that blender pisco sour cocktail video, I told you about a shortcut if you didn't want to make simple syrup. In that video, I scooped out caster sugar and I just put that right in without diluting it with water or anything because it would be diluted with the ice later on. You can watch the video. If you don't want to use caster sugar, yes, you can use simple syrup. Use the same amount of simple syrup as your lime juice. In that case, I think in that video, I did 1 ounce of lime juice. So you would do 1 ounce of simple syrup. We're going back to our seesaw analogy. If you'll remember, if you have a sweet component, you need to balance that out with a citrus component or bitter. In this case, it's sweet and sour. You always want it to be the same amount when it comes to liquids. There are rules and exceptions like there is with everything, but that's the fundamental rule, is to keep those an equal amount. When we're talking about 2 liquids like lime juice and simple syrup, which is also a liquid, do an equal amount. You could of course cut that down to 1/2 ounce of lime juice and 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. If you want a stronger drink, meaning you want to taste the spirit more, that's okay too. But just keep those equal parts and your cocktail will be great. Question number 2, it's related to the pisco sour recipe again. If I don't have or I don't want to use egg white or aquafaba in the blended pisco sour cocktail, can I leave it out altogether? Will my cocktail still taste okay? Yes, you can leave it out altogether. If you leave it out, that means that your cocktail will be base spirit and lime juice and simple syrup. It's 3 ingredients, it's a sour cocktail. It's pretty much a margarita at that point if you swapped out the pisco and put in tequila. Hang on. I'm gonna shut my window because there's some noise happening right now. All right, I'm back. Where did I leave off? Oh yeah, that essentially you have a margarita if you swapped out the pisco for tequila. Because of that, because that's essentially a margarita, you don't need the blender. Just use a cocktail shaker. The blender is really there to emulsify the aquafaba into the cocktail, as well as if you're using the egg white, it would do the same thing so that you could get that frothy texture. If you're not using those ingredients, if you're not using the egg white or the aquafaba, not only leave those ingredients out, but also leave out the blender because you don't need it. It's just another thing to clean up later. So just leave it out and you'll be fine. Question number 3 is about the weeknight cocktail video I did a while back with a lager and sweet vermouth and a bitter aperitif. The question is, what if I don't have those exact brands of sweet vermouth that you showed in that weeknight cocktail? Can I use another one? Yes, you totally can use another one. Just swap out whatever sweet vermouth you have. And if you think about it, this is what bartenders and mixologists, if you want to get fancy, what they do every day. After I answer the next question, I'm going to circle back to swapping out ingredients and making substitutions because that is really important. It's one of the most prominent questions that I get asked. I get asked all the time, well, if I don't have X, can I use Y? So we will circle back to that. But first, I want to answer the last question, which is, I've had a bottle of tawny port for over a year. How long does the port stay fresh? Is it still good? This is a great question, and this one was asked by my sister. So sister, this answer is for you. Ruby port stays fresh, or is really at its peak, within 2 weeks of opening it. If you have a bottle of tawny port, that stays fresh for about a month, or it stays at its peak for about a month. It will begin to degrade after that. It's time to say goodbye. I'm sorry, you just gotta do it. The most important part of this video is about to come in 30 seconds, and that is answering the question about interchanging ingredients with one another. What you need to know is that there are 2 keys to successfully interchanging or substituting ingredients in cocktails. The first key is keep your ratios in check. There are a few core cocktails that follow a set ratio, and if you follow that ratio, then you can just interchange ingredients. Take that pisco sour cocktail, or like a margarita. That magic ratio, and it's the ratio that you will use for the majority of the cocktails in your arsenal, is a ratio of 2-1-1, meaning 2 parts base spirit, 1 part sweet, 1 part sour. If you keep that ratio in check, you can successfully navigate hundreds of cocktails. So don't try to get super creative and think that you're going to blow everyone's mind by putting 2 ounces of tequila and then go with 3 ounces of simple syrup and a spoonful of lime juice, because that lime juice and simple syrup is totally not in check and your cocktail will be off. That's not where you want to get creative. Keep those ratios in check. Get creative elsewhere. Key number 2, swap like for like. What I mean by that is, if you have a base spirit, you can swap it out for another base spirit. So if you are originally working with tequila, or the original cocktail called for tequila, swap it out with another 40% alcohol by volume spirit, like gin or vodka or pisco or whiskey, but swap like for like. If you're swapping out a vermouth, stick with vermouth. If you are swapping out citrus, stick with citrus. Don't throw out the lime juice and then decide to put in honey in its place, because those are 2 separate things. Swap out the lime juice for lemon juice, or swap out the lemon juice for grapefruit juice, and you'd probably want a little bit more acidity in there, but you get what I'm saying. If you're swapping out juice, put another juice in there. Swap like for like. And at the end of the day, the thing that's going to make you a way better cocktail maker, cocktail drinker, make you a better diner, it'll make you better with everything that you consume, really, is taste the ingredients and think about them. So when I'm talking about swapping like for like, really you're swapping out something that's sweet for something else that's sweet. If you want something sour, taste the other things that you want in there and see if they are sour, then it could be a direct swap. Frankly, you would think that it'd be a given to taste ingredients isolated before you put them into a cocktail shaker, but you'd be surprised. Hardly anybody does that, and they just expect that the cocktail will just work out without ever having tasted each component on its own to really identify, is this sweet? Is this bitter? Is this salty? And they're just throwing things into the cocktail shaker without even thinking about it, and they wonder why the cocktail doesn't work out. So you really have to taste above all else. That being said, I'm giving you homework again for this episode. And your homework is tonight around the dinner table, as you're taking a bite of whatever dish that was prepared or that you made yourself, really taste it and think about, was this crunchy? Was this bitter? Is this sweet? Think about the texture, the acidity, the viscosity, the weight, because all these things culminating together are what make a fantastic drink or dish. So challenge yourself, taste everything, because you'll find that your world immensely opens up. And you'll also find that you're probably more disposed to trying ingredients that you never thought you'd try before, because now you're looking at them differently. You're looking for something different. If you stayed this long, thank you so much. I do want to tell you that my dad has taken my advice after following these videos, and he purchased some ice molds so that he can drink his whiskey on the rocks outside. He lives in Georgia, where it's very hot, very humid, and I can't emphasize enough how quickly the ice melts down there. I mean, it is just brutal. But he wants you to know that he bought some ice molds and he bought some ice ball molds, and he says he loves them. They're great, that you should go out and get some for yourself because they are fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in to Natalia Con Gusto. It's my pleasure to be with you. And once again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. This is what I do every day from 6 a.m. until 5 p.m. or whenever I finish my day. I love it. It's a great job. This is a great industry. It is being brutalized right now with this COVID pandemic. So I know so many of you are in quarantine. So many people have been furloughed. It is devastating. My heart goes out to you. I hope that I can make this time at home just a tad bit more enjoyable. So I hope you appreciate it. And this whole video series is meant to bring some light into your life in a very dark world right now. Thank you once again. If you didn't already, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to my channel. I'll be uploading a new video every week. I'll see you next week. Happy drinking.